Kevin, our buddy from Montgomery, Alabama, hit us up. He said, hey, what's your plan to fix bowl season? I don't know if I can, Kevin. I don't know if I can. The first thing I have to do is ask you a question, and that is, how married are you to the current structure? The current structure is just bowl season happens at the end of the regular season. If that's what you're looking for me to save, I don't know that I can save it. I can keep the games. We're in the middle of bowl season right now. So I can have the games still happen, but you're going to deal with teams opting out, players opting out, the stuff we hate. So if you're looking for me to save that, if you're looking for me to hit the rewind button and go back in time, I can't do that. We warned about it, but they didn't listen to our warning. So I can't do anything about that. Now, I have tossed around an idea. I heard our buddy Rick Neuheisel was tossing around this idea. It doesn't really matter who had it first, as long as it's a good idea. That's what Meemaw says. And that is to have bowl season at the beginning of the next season. Now, anytime you mention these ideas, they're going to be radical. Okay, so that's why I always ask, do you have to have bowl season at the end of the current season? Okay, if you do, don't listen to the following idea. You're not going to like it. But if you're open to some radical proposals, at least, what you could have is the playoffs plenty big enough now to where December's filled with inventory. So we don't have to have the bowl games, or else there's no football in December. There wouldn't be as much of it. But if you're okay with it, what you could do is write down the games that would have been bowl season and then let those be sort of like a gigantic kickoff week the following year. Or what you really could do, like I was thinking about this, if we're going to move the start of the season up to where what is currently week 0 is week 1, maybe you have like a tune-up weekend where and there are some decent games and some throwaway games, and then week 2 is Labor Day weekend, and that's the huge, what would be bowl season, bowl weekend. And you got like 30 or 40 matchups that were kind of set last year. Jesse, who would Notre Dame have played in their bowl game? Who was it? Georgia Tech or someone like that? So would have been BYU. Okay, so let's just pretend that under this new idea, let's just take Georgia Tech since they're in the game. Georgia Tech and Brigham Young, instead of playing December 27th, 2025, they just play Labor Day weekend 2026. That's the bowl game. I know it makes no sense by historical standards because the players that are going to be on those teams next year weren't even on the team the year before. I know that. I'm trying to save it. Okay, the current situation is on life support. So this would just be one way to do it, and it gives you something to look forward to the next year, and all the games are going to be played at a maximum level, and no one's going to opt out because they're legit regular season games. So that would be one idea. There's another idea that our buddy Stephen Godfrey has thrown around, and I was listening earlier today to his proposal, and what his idea was, hey guys, do me one favor. Check and see if you're subscribed to the channel. If you are, great. If you're not, it's that easy. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't sign you up for anything. It just helps us do the show this way forever. All right, back to the clip. It's pretty complicated, but I'm going to sort of broad stroke it, Immunity. His idea was forget about all the tie-ins. Just have the bowls, but they don't have to take an SEC team. They don't have to take an ACC team. And they just start basically recruiting teams. You could start in week 6, week 7, week 8, and you just start recruiting teams, and they're bidding on teams. They're basically recruiting teams like teams would recruit players. And so they're going to Notre Dame and saying, hey, if you guys aren't in the playoff already, or if you're not in the playoff at the end of the year, the Pop-Tart Bowl over here, we're willing to pay you this much money. Or we're willing to pay your players this much money. So here's the full compensation package. And the bowls are competing against themselves. And then another idea he tossed out was partner with one of the big streaming platforms like Netflix, Amazon, whatnot, and just document the whole thing. Document the Sun Bowl competing against the Gator Bowl and the entire process. And it comes down to the night before, and the Gator Bowl thinks that they have Memphis, but then the Sun Bowl yanks Memphis away with an over-the-top offer. Like I said, radical proposals. And then there's another question. Okay, could you blend that concept with sort of what I call the 13th game concept? We were throwing this idea around earlier today. There's a lot of holes in this one. But you know how when Vandy realized they were going to get locked out of the playoff, they tried to schedule a 13th game last week? Well, What would happen if you kind of took bowl games, bowl season, threw a Stephen Godfrey spin on it, and had the whole recruiting process, but you had those games take place on conference championship weekend? So anyone who's not in a conference championship is in their bowl game that is essentially their 13th game, but the results of the bowl games are counting. You're not even putting out your final playoff rankings until after that 13th weekend. So if Brigham Young and Georgia Tech are playing in the Pop-Tart Bowl, that's wonderful, and they just missed out on the playoff, but they're getting a 13th data point. So everyone who's playing that weekend is getting a 13th data point. Now, I think one of the things you would have to do is you would have to crystallize the idea that if you're playing in the conference championship games, you've got a spot in the playoff. Because otherwise, I'd look at it and say, like, if I'm Alabama, why am I going to play Georgia? I'm playing a tough opponent, while the other teams that are competing for spots are playing somewhat lesser opponents. So I would kind of need some assurances that, hey, if I'm playing in these conference championship games, I'm going to be in. I don't even know how you would do that. That's just a loose concept that we were throwing around. So I don't know if we can, fix bowl season to the degree that we just resuscitate what used to be. But you can get creative about ideas for the future. QuickTrip is where you want to be. You can be a fan of chaos or not. QuickTrip's where you want to be, and I will just fill you in. I'll let you behind the curtain a little bit. I got a text from QuickTrip Joe the other day, who sort of is our liaison at QuickTrip, also a good, close personal friend of the program. And there was nothing special about the day other than the fact that we woke up that morning. Every day's a blessing, of course. QT Joe believes that. I believe that. QuickTrip believes that. I don't even have to ask them for clearance to say that. But he texted me on a random morning and said, hey, good day to give away some free gas, don't you think? I said, okay. So I went on Twitter and I said, hey, QuickTrip Joe just hit me up. He wants to give away some free gas. He speaks for the company. Who needs gas? And a bunch of you replied, and QuickTrip just gave away tank after tank after tank of free gas. That is the kind of partner that we like on the show. The kind of partner that looks at our audience and says, oh, you look like normal people. You probably drive vehicles, don't you? Those vehicles need gas, don't they? You normally have to pay your own money for the gas, don't you? Well, not today. Thank you, QuickTrip. And in return for your free tank of gas, maybe march yourself right in there and pay a couple of bucks for cold brew on tap. It's worth it. Personally, I think they should charge more, but they're not in the business of ripping anyone off. So we appreciate QuickTrip. Home of QuickTrip is the great state of Oklahoma, where we'll be a little bit later this week.